that she was trying to study for her exams. So she went to a local health food store and bought some ephedra, a stimulant to take to try to counteract the sedative effects of her painkillers. And when she took the drugs concomitantly, she became manic psychotic. And she was labeled as having bipolar illness, and they did not identify that she had a drug toxicity reaction. And so she started her journey of being a mental patient and being on psychiatric drugs. And for a period of a couple of years, she was off and on of a number of different drugs. She was on a cocktail of about 13 different drugs at one period in time. And she decided that the drugs were making her more ill and causing her more symptoms. So she quit the drugs cold turkey and started trying to detoxify and taking nutritional supplements and things of that nature. I wasn't aware at that time, because I'd never sold antidepressants, that you couldn't just cold turkey off of antidepressants. And as soon as she went into a psychotic tailspin because she had gone off of the drugs, I started doing my research, and that's what actually then evolved into the book, because eventually my niece was told by her mother, my sister, that she had to go back on the drugs because she was still suffering, from severe depression. And that's what the doctors had advised that my sister do, is put her back on the drugs. She needs to be on drugs for the rest of her life, because that's the agenda. And so when my sister called her to tell her that she was going to come home and forcibly take her back to the psychiatrist, she poured oil over herself from an angel-shaped lantern that was in one of her sister's bedrooms, and she burned herself alive. She made the decision that she was not going to be crazy and be on psychiatric drugs for the rest of her life. And at that point, I recognized I had nowhere else to go but out with the information that I had and what I was uncovering. And I became extremely angry when I saw the amount of collusion and cover-up and misinformation that had taken place from the get-go, when the antidepressants, all the clinical data showed they were not efficacious, that there was extreme risk involved, particularly with young adults and children. And here they were, giving them out like candy to all of our kids and all of our, young adults. And so I just decided I had no choice but to speak out. And my book, that was going to just be kind of an expose about the over-drugging of Americans, became an autobiography / warning to the public.
All right. Very interesting stuff there. That is Gwen Olson. So you can look up Gwen Olson's stuff. And yeah, I'm on antidepressants that I was, and I know other people. And cold turkey, it put me in the hospital with when I had anxiety issues, and I was hallucinating, paranoid, seeing all kinds of stuff, losing weight rapidly, and I'm off antidepressants right now too, and I'm already having symptoms and problems again, and not feeling good. Sorry to say for people, but I just don't really enjoy getting up each day and everything right now, and I know that the drugs are affecting me and doing that. When you look these things up, you'll find that these things are fatal. That's how I found out about it. I was taking clozapam, and clozapam with the anxiety, found out that it was almost ranked right next to acid. And why I was hallucinating. I was hallucinating for over a month, and it was cold turkey. And right now I'm having issues where I can't get the stuff they want me to pay $400 and can't. And I don't want to take this stuff. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional. I don't really want to take any of this stuff. I want to be normal again. And I've got to expose this stuff. I've had too many people I've known that have died. All of this stuff is a very sensitive issue. Anyway, I'm going to show more videos here. I'm sorry that these things are long. When it comes to the truth is long stuff, and there's so much information out here. And there's friends I'm concerned about right now that are having issues with it comes to these drugs and everything like that, and it messes with our lives. We don't feel sane anymore. We feel crazy and stuff like that. And there is a conspiracy. The word conspiracy means to bring to light. It does not mean weirdos or darkness or anything like that. There's an agenda. And if you don't realize it, you need to do the research and see how much it's grown on this. But anyway, on to the videos, okay?
I'm Sarah Payne, and I'm the lead researcher of the Health-Wise Report, formerly of Naturally Good magazine. We're creating a documentary called Prescription for Manslaughter. The movie is about antidepressants and how they can cause some people to lose their sense of reality, and in that dream state, commit terrible acts. Every school shooting in America has involved psychiatric drugs, but that's been censored by the big media houses.
The FDA does not regulate the drug industry. Instead, the FDA is a business partner of the drug industry, which gives it 32 times what it makes with tax revenue. Again, that's 32 times. Unfortunately, we're not funded by Big Pharma. In fact, we don't have outside funding from anywhere, except for an occasional donation. We began creating this documentary without funding, because it has to be made, and it's probably the most difficult health topic that we could have chosen. People are taking commonly prescribed psychiatric drugs without knowing that there's a legitimate risk that they could go out and kill somebody close to them, while having no control over their own actions. These people often wake up in a prison cell or a juvenile detention center, and are later told of their crimes by observers. By producing this documentary, we're going up against the most ruthless and powerful group in the industrialized world, so we need your help. People's lives literally depend upon us getting community support. There are other films out there that are likewise worth sponsoring, but Prescription for Manslaughter will directly save people's lives, and prevent some from being unjustly sent to prison for the rest of their lives. The documentary will be having a special Creative Commons style copyright that will allow for non-commercial redistribution via the internet, without restrictions. We can be contacted at healthwise.org with WISE spelt W-Y-Z-E. Next are some clips from the documentary, so that you can see the direction that we're going in, get a feel for it, and understand just how important this project is.
Because of the media's ties with Big Pharma, you have likely never learned this neurologically degenerative, drug-induced, psychopathological and physical condition, which has become common. In the official pharmaceutical literature of today, akathisia is most often referenced as an emotional blunting, and what this means in plain language, minus the mitigating marketing, is that the victim of this condition experiences a suppression of all emotions, subsequently causing something of a zombie state. The significance of this is that a person's conscience and his ability to recognize consequences are derived from his ability to emotionally empathize with the suffering of others and to experience fear. A patient, or anyone else for that matter, becomes a dangerous person whenever the emotions behind his conscience are chemically neutralized for the sake of suppressing inconvenient emotions, such as depression. Akathisia is the clear connection between psychiatric drugs, sociopathology, and psychopathology. For a small percentage of the population, akathisia produces a dreamy state, or more aptly, it's a nightmare state whilst being partially awake. In these special cases, it becomes a type of psychiatric drug-induced sleepwalking, whereby the person unconsciously acts in a sociopathic or a psychopathic manner. It is a state in which friends and families may suddenly become monsters, who must be exterminated. For these tragic cases, akathisia is like being possessed by a demon, except that the patient is actually possessed by a chemical. Akathisia is known to occur with every SSRI antidepressant and certain other psychiatric medications, particularly the antipsychotics. The irony of antidepressants causing suicides and antipsychotics causing psychosis is hard to miss. The FDA still refuses to label any drugs with a homicidality risk, although it was eventually willing to issue a black box suicidality warning for SSRI antidepressants, but only after immense public pressure from people who had lost loved ones.
The trail can often lead right to the medicine chest.
2 years ago, 16-year-old Corey Badsgard took a rifle to his high school and held 23 classmates hostage.
I felt sick, didn't feel like really, like I could get up very well. And so I went back to bed, and next thing I remember, I'm in juvie in the detention center where I used to live.
Just one more.
With Celebrex, I will play the long version.
Ask your doctor if Celebrex is right for you.
Any doctor can tell you about patients that come in with a list of medications that they want. They clearly all came from advertisement that they see on TV. And if you watch the evening news, for example, it's all advertisement for prescription drugs.
You often feel distracted, disorganized, restless, unable to finish things. Like the channel keeps changing in your mind and you can't control the remote.
You guys have any thoughts?
If you felt these symptoms your whole life, you may have adult ADD.
So in other words, a person who is not yet a patient, who is actually feeling quite good, sits down to watch the evening news, and after seeing a few commercials, says to him or herself, I'm not quite as healthy as I thought.
Got to remember that appointment tomorrow. Did I send the car payment? What made me volunteer for that assignment?
Introducing Lunesta, a sleep aid that can give you and your restless mind the sleep you need.
I can't help but think that there are millions of Americans who are taking drugs that they probably don't need and may be even harmful. That they're being convinced, and their doctors are being convinced, that they should take lifelong drugs that probably are of no net benefit and may be of net harm.
While direct-to-consumer advertising remains the most visible aspect of the drug industry's overall marketing approach, the real story lies behind the television screens. Invisible to most consumers, the majority of pharmaceutical promotion is still directed at medical professionals. Increasingly, drug companies are pushing their brands at medical conferences and in medical journals. In addition, there are close to 100,000 industry sales representatives who spend countless hours visiting hospitals and physicians' offices and leaving behind branded items to remind both doctor and patient who they are and what they're selling.
No matter where you spend money in pharmaceutical promotion, whether it's within sample distribution, educational programming, non-educational programming, champagne, brunches, happy hours, New York jet tickets, no matter where you spend the money, you make money. And my boss always told me, don't worry about it. There'll always be more funding. Spend what you can. In fact, if I give you $100,000 to spend, Gene, I want you to spend $200,000.
One of the biggest problems has been that nobody was talking about it, that the hidden curriculum was accepting all these gifts okay because the teachers and everybody else were doing it. But there was no other message, and what we've been trying to do now is to get medical schools to explicitly and formally in the curriculum themselves in the medical schools to talk to students about this and discuss the ethical and professional issues involved.
I think the public is becoming very disillusioned. They're no longer believing that this is a miracle industry in the sense that they may once have believed that. So in a sense, I think it's just a matter of the public starting to put this all together and put pressure on Congress.
The influence of the industry on